Okay, welcome back again to Miss Tucker's science class. Today we're going to be continuing on with our life science, and today we're going to be talking about food webs. Previously we talked about food chains, but today we're going to talk about food webs. In the real world, energy exchanges are much more complicated than a single food chain. The same organisms can be part of a multiple food chain. Scientists use food webs to show all of the feeding relationships and overlapping food chains. So we talked about, when we were talking about food chains, that energy is passed through ecosystem, through food chains, and also through food webs. So at each level of the food chain, most of the energy is transferred, remember we talked about this, into movement and heat, 90% of it. So only 10% of the energy from one level gets passed on to the next. What I want to draw for you today is something called an energy pyramid. Energy pyramid. You can get your pencil out and draw it too. That's not a very straight line up there. Let's try again. That's a lot better. Okay. So this is our energy pyramid. And of course, what would be at the bottom of our pyramid? Of course, down here, we have our producers. Okay, our producers. Okay, and so these are our plants and our trees with the fruit on it, or nuts, some more plants, some flowers, anything that's plant material would be your producer, okay? Your producer. Above our producers is what is our first row of consumers, and we call these our primary. So they are consumers, but they are our primary consumers. This is the first level of consumers. And these are the things that eat the producers. So once again, we're going to draw our little grasshopper, because he is over here eating maybe also a little flower and some grass. So let's give him some legs and some hoppity things. So these are our primary consumers. Above our primary consumers are what we call our secondary consumers. And primary being first above your producers, and secondary being the second. And this would include our little, from Charlotte's Web, our spider. I don't draw very good spiders. Okay, so here, and of course the spider, of course, is probably consuming a primary consumer like a grasshopper. Okay, and then at the very top of our chain is, we call this our tertiary, meaning what? Third, tertiary consumers. And these are the things that are on the top of the food chain, like us, but we'll use Mr. Foxy again. I'll just draw his head, his little nose there, and his little eyes, and put little whiskers on him. Okay, so these are our tertiary consumers. As we go up this food pyramid, we go up this way, okay, there is a decrease in the amount of energy. Okay, but also in the same instance, there is going up, a decrease in the number, I'll use use a hashtag, number of organisms. Think about it. How much plant material is there in the world compared to how many insects or primary consumers are in the world? There's less of this when you think about that, because if not, then there wouldn't be any plants. All the primary consumers would eat up the producers. And then if we think about it, when we think about, just think about a grasshopper, how many grasshoppers there are compared to how many spiders there are. And then we think about how many spiders there are compared to how many foxes there are. So as we go up, we have a decrease in the amount of energy, and then we also have a decrease in the number of organisms. Okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn on the projector. I think it's working. Yep, it's blinking. And I'm going to erase this. And I want to show you another example of a food web. This was the energy pyramid for a food web. And I'm going to bring up the this food web. Okay, we're going to start on the left-hand side, and once again, the thing I want you to remember is the source of all energy is what? The sun. You got to remember that. Now, this one is a couple of chains put together, and we'll follow a chain and then look at a different chain. But a food web is a connection of food chains with many food energy paths in its ecosystem. So when we talk about the sun coming down and remember, follow the arrows. It's giving its energy to what? The grass. And then the grass is giving its energy to a deer. And then the deer gives its energy to the mountain lion. But you can also come over here, another chain. The energy from the sun is giving the energy to something that provides seeds. Well, what all eats seeds? So when we have a squirrel, it's giving the energy to a squirrel. It's giving it energy to a bird. It's giving its energy to a mouse. Now, the squirrel is a herbivore. It only eats plants. This bird just so happens to be an omnivore. There are birds that eat nothing but plants, but this bird is an omnivore. And then this mouse is an omnivore. Okay? And then their energy is sent here, the squirrel, because it's eaten by the eagle. It goes to the eagle. And then the bird's energy goes to the snake. The snake eats a bird, or the snake might eat the mouse. But the energy flows into the snake. And then the eagle might also derive its energy from the snake. Okay? So that is a really good combination of some food chains that make a food web. Okay? And we can see here's a herbivore, here's a carnivore, here's another herbivore, carnivore, the snake is a carnivore, the bird is an omnivore, a mouse is an omnivore, and then something that produces seeds is a producer. Okay? Producer. I told you it was going to be a really short lecture for food webs. It is part of the food chains, so it will have its own test. It's only a 5-question test, so be sure to answer the questions for this lecture.